So I'll show you guys some good reps and then we'll rewind and we'll talk about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So when we're doing anything that involves working the costal pec, I think it's important to understand the relationship between your torso and your arm that we're going for, because it is something that you can kind of check back in with while you're doing the movement, and it's absolutely something that I look for when I'm watching your form videos. And so what I'm talking about here is we're not pressing upward on an angle here, we're not pressing perpendicular to the body, we're actually pressing a little bit lower than perpendicular, kind of like in line with your nipple. And I'm going to say nipple a couple times in the video, and so get the giggles out now, because I do think it's actually a very helpful cue for you to know that you're pushing in the right angle. Now, when it comes to actually getting into the exercise, a lot of people complain or struggle with, very reasonably so, that getting into the movement, they have to kind of do this like big muscle, get the handles in here, and then they can get into the movement. If you're finding that it's incredibly difficult for you to get into position, chances are you can bring the cables down a click or two, and that'll give you a little bit better leverage to get up and press down. Instead of having to go all the way up here and kind of yank them down into position, you can bring the cables down a little bit if they feel like they're very high and far away. Just don't bring them down any more than you need to get into position, because it does change things a little bit. Now, once you're in position, I want you to start in line with the cables. You get your handles down kind of like into your armpits here, and you're going to take one big step forward with either leg. It does not matter. Figure out whichever one's more comfortable for you. You're going to take that big step forward and you're going to lean into the weight. I'm not upright, I'm not all the way down here, but I'm leaning into the weight very gently to help create some stability. The next thing you'll notice is that my elbows are relatively tucked to the torso. They're not up here, and they're also not super tucked to my torso, but they're absolutely a little bit tucked. And how much you need to tuck them also depends on how wide your cables are, so I will help you with that in your form videos. Just tuck them a little bit and start there. The next thing I want to focus on is what my hands are doing. They're not pronated, which means palms down. They're not supinated, which means palms up. They're more of a neutral grip, which means the palms are roughly facing each other, right? They're on a little bit of an angle, but they're mostly facing each other, and that's going to help with my elbow tuck as I'm going through the movement. Now, back to the nipple business. When I'm figuring out, should I be pressing down here or out here, I'm thinking about pressing in line with where my nips are. And as I'm pressed down here, I know that that's lined up pretty well here. If I was pressing straight down, that's not the nips. If I'm pressing straight out up here, not nips. If I'm pressing right here on an angle, that's lined up really well. And again, I'll help you with that in the form video if I think you need to adjust it in some way. Now, from a range of motion perspective, you want to bring the hands up, keep the elbows a little bit tucked until you feel a stretch in your armpit region, your pec, and your front delt. And you're going to press all the way down until the hands touch. Bringing them up until you feel a stretch, down until the hands touch. Keeping that roughly neutral grip and keeping that cable in line with your forearm. See how that cable, I'm going to let go of this arm for a sec. See how that cable and my forearm they're touching because of how close my cables are, but see how they're in the same line? It's possible that I could press like this. See how they're not in the same line anymore? I would have to pick my elbow up, and that's what a lot of you guys tend to do, is kind of let the elbow drop here. As you're going up, I want you to think about keeping the cable and your forearm in the same line at all times. Up till you feel a stretch, down till the hands touch.